This is the Brabus Bodo, a coach-built €1 million monster based on the Aston Martin Vanquish, but with power up to 1000 horsepower and the aesthetic swung from brawny beauty to supervillain menace. But while it might look like it's just dropped in from a dystopian neo-noir, the reality is the people who can afford this car are living la dolce vita. So we're here in Lake Como to see how this thing fits into a life of luxury and hedonism. Coming up, we're going to tell you why this thing is so much more than a rebodied Aston Martin Vanquish. Everything on this car is bespoke. We're going to listen to its V12 unfettered thanks to a very conveniently located tunnel. And we're going to take this thing up into the hills to see if Brabus has created a super GT to match the very best.
So, this isn't a resto mod nor simply a modified car, it really is proper neo coach building. I guess you could say Brabus has been operating well beyond the scope of a tune-up for a long time, but I can't help but think of them as builders of savage blacked out Benzes that eat autobahns, so the Vanquish base seems strange, but maybe inspired. If you were to choose any donor car with which to make a visual statement, the super elongated front-engine rear-drive Aston is hard to beat. The proportions are already so dramatic.
But even the Vanquish looks demure and rather modest next to this very sinister Brabus Bodo. It was named actually after Brabus's founder, Bodo Bushman, more on which later. But let's look at some of the detail of this car because it's so much more than just a rebodied Vanquish. We'll start with the engine. It's a beast, isn't it? Still 5.2 litre V12 twin turbo, but Brabus strip it down to component form and re-engineer everything. It's got all the good stuff, titanium rods, forged pistons, bigger proprietary Brabus turbochargers. They won't tell me the boost pressure, but it now has 1000 PS, 1200 Newton meters of torque. That's what, 885 pounds-feet. It's an absolute monster. These intakes I should show you as well. Little bits of gold fleck built into the carbon fibre just because they can, and it's Brabus and it's €1 million, so why not? Other stuff. Okay, I want to talk about some of the geeky stuff to show the depth of engineering behind this car. So right down to the tyres. Vanquish has Pirelli P0s. We now have Continental Sport Contact 7, and these are specific to Brabus, so designed and developed just for the Bodo. Really cool things. We've got carbon Kevlar wheel arch liners, which I've not seen before, but are super cool. They remind me of the Ferrari F40, so big points for that. You can see by the ride height, suspension completely changed. Springs, dampers, but even suspension arms, kinematics, everything is different. Brabus going for still a GT car, but a more extreme, more aggressive car, which is what Brabus is all about. The bare carbon fibre body, you can see for yourself, is absolutely gorgeous, inspired by the Maybach 6, but instead of just pure elegance, this is Brabus, so it has to have aggression as well. The weight of the car actually reduced as well, so they tell me dry about 1700 kilos, so a bit lighter as well. So much stuff to talk about. 3D style rear lights, a little bit like a Aston Martin Vulcan, aren't they? Got a little rear wing here. It's in 3 positions, but to keep that lovely boat tail look, we've got it down at the moment. And then right at the back, we've got diffuser, but also these stacked titanium tailpipes. It's a bespoke exhaust system. Everything on this car is bespoke. And they're really keen for me to say that it isn't a Vanquish with loads of goodies added on top of it. It's a complete car. We'll find out if that's true, but I have to say the overall look and feel is just really special, unique, and very definitely Brabus. Let's take a look at the history of Brabus in a minute, but first, the interior, and then I promise we will drive it. Inside the Bodo, well, unsurprisingly, it's a feast of black. That is the Brabus signature colour. Suits this car though, doesn't it? It's super cool. We have carbon fibre, we have black Alcantara and black quilted leather. We've got a little signature here on the side of the door, Bodo Bushman, the founder of Brabus, still run by his son now, Constantine, so it stayed in the family, which is pretty cool. And it's quite odd because Brabus is Mercedes to me, but now it's based on a Vanquish, and the Vanquish has some Mercedes parts. So for example, the stalks on the side. So it's a weird little mashup, Brabus, Aston, Benz, and it all seems to fit together quite nicely. Okay, I'm going to start the car Because the cool thing is, we talked about the suspension, which is all bespoke, but the mode still works. So I have GT mode, Sport Plus mode, which you can select on this rotary dial around the start button, or you can go down to individual mode, and then you can see on this screen all the things that you can change: engine, exhaust, steering, and suspension. So it's got that breadth of character, or it should retain that breadth of character. You can also adjust suspension exhaust down here, as in an Aston Martin. This is the gear selector. We've got physical buttons for fan, temperature, etc., which is quite nice. There's even a nice physical button to turn off all the lane assist. Please, more manufacturers do that. Up here, we have a button for the little active rear wing at the back, so you can choose to have it up. There's 3 levels, but it'll only go into the higher ones when you're on the move. And there's also a full body lift. So this car's pretty low and it's got a long rear overhang, so the suspension does a full body lift as well. The other functionality, and I think it really dials into this car wanting to be more of a driver's car, is that we keep the adjustable traction control system. So I can hit the button down here to turn off the ESP, and then just as in other Aston Martins, the active and adjustable traction control starts. So if you turn it up to 9, that's off, 8, 7, 6, down to 1. So effectively it's like a volume control knob. As you turn it down, the car becomes more reined in. As you turn it up, there's more expressive behavior. Got a panoramic roof, which lifts the blackness a little bit, but overall the aesthetic is serious, high quality, very black, very cool.
You'd expect nothing less from Brabus. Founded in 1977 in West Germany by Bodo Buschmann and Klaus Brackmann, the name is a mashup of the two. Brabus was Bodo's idea though, and he bought Klaus's shares soon after. Bodo had already tuned his own personal Mercedes, but the first official Brabus was a W126 S-Class with a 5-litre V8. Ever since, it's been putting big power into big Benzes. Fast forward to today, and now run by Bodo's son Konstantin, Brabus does everything from aftermarket wheels and styling kits to remastered classics and tuned Lambos and Porsches, through to its heartland Mercedes business, of course, which covers everything from interior retrims, 1000 horsepower engine transplants, and now bespoke cars like the Bodo.
As you'd expect, first impressions are Vanquish, but with a little twist. Firstly, I've never driven a Vanquish that's quite so Batman inside. It's so dark and menacing and brooding, but I actually like it. It gives it a different flavour, which is really, really cool. It feels huge on these unbelievably narrow lanes. It is a big old bus, but you can bimble around town and look like a sort of benevolent criminal. I'm sure it would be fantastic for a long journey, because who wouldn't love to do a long journey in a V12 with 1000 horsepower? I have to say, if you were some sort of crime overlord, this is probably not the most undercover way to get around. Oh God, this is scary. How much do you think these rims cost? Yeah. A lot. Ooh, survived. You can see where everyone's got a panda around here.
Time to escape, I think. The Bodo is about 2 sizes too big for Como, but then again, so is anything bigger than that most noble of all vehicles, the mighty Fiat Panda. The mountains nearby are pretty tight too, but with nobody else around, at least we can attempt to let this thing off the leash.
Okay, so this is where it should all come together. The open road, we can forget about the coach building for a minute and now get on to the dynamics. Has Brabus just made this thing look amazing, or does it drive like something out of this world as well? Immediately, there's difference. This is not just Vanquish, that's for sure. The steering's got a bit more weight to it. The front tyres, those big fat front tyres, hunt around a little bit on the surface. And there's no doubt the car feels a bit sharper, a bit more hunkered down. They've gone for a bit more aggression in this setup. But despite that aggression, there's a bit of subtlety here too, because all the drive modes still work. So we've got GT, Sport, Sport Plus adjusted down here in an individual mode as well. And I've been surprised that the Sport Plus mode for the dampers actually works up on this road. The quicker I've gone in this car, because it is still a big heavy car, the more I've wanted to tie the body down. But the Sport Plus mode works. Occasionally the car does feel a bit heavy-footed, but it's a big old bus for these roads. But for the most part, it really, really works. I've been surprised. You can throw it into corners. There's a bit more of a sense that as you turn it into corners, the rear wants to have a little bit of yaw as well. There's just a bit more aggression to the setup and a bit more, they've tried to create a more nimble feel, I think, and it's worked. It's pretty bloody impressive. But what about the big ticket items? So specifically this engine. Well, you can probably hear that it is angry, and it's got the power to really light up the rear tyres. Traction's good actually, but you can overwhelm it fairly easily. The interesting thing is, despite the fact the chassis is much sharper, much more responsive, what that means is you want to hustle the car more and you want instant response out of the turns. But because Brabus have rebuilt this V12, almost completely re-engineered it, you don't quite get the response out of turns sometimes. That torque, which you get in the base Vanquish, there's more of it in this car, but it feels like it comes higher up. And so you're waiting for that big bang right at the top. The chassis itself just has balance and aggression to spare, really. It's really clever, this, because we've talked about the coach building, but it's so much more than that, because they haven't just added a new skin to it. They've gone right down to the foundations of this car and created something completely new and all of its own. Now, I always think of Brabus, and I think I probably always will, as big, bad, scary Benzes. Like, a Brabus should be a matte black Benz doing 300 kph down an autobahn. But this car definitely holds true the same values as some of those crazy old Brabus cars that I've driven. But it adds just a really, really lovely level of sharpness, interaction. Like, this is a huge, heavy car, and this is a tiny road. We have brought it to the wrong venue, and we're putting it through a big old stress test, and it works brilliantly. It's a scary looking thing. It is scarily fast, and I think it could catch you out if you don't understand what 1200 Newton meters of torque to the rear wheels means. But actually, dynamically, it's on the money, and it's properly exciting. It's a big old GT, but it definitely wants to be a sports car or a supercar.
There's so much to love here, although we did manage to find the angriest, least enthusiastic Italian policeman towards the end of our day. A story for another time. Anyway, the Bodo is just so sinister, so badass in every way. And it's a properly developed car with its own identity. You feel the Vanquish within, which is no bad thing, but Brabus has layered new characteristics on top and tweaked the mission statement to create something with greater agility and body control. Plus some old school coach-built glamour. Is it twice the car the Vanquish is? Absolutely not. But should you have the means, it's a fantastic thing in its own right. And your rival family's godfather is unlikely to be rolling a Brabus Bodo, which is important, right?